So Cosmic Skeptic made a video about veganism, and it is really, really good. I think by far the best video I've seen from someone who is not vegan, on veganism, other than like Hank Green's. He did one on vegetarianism, I think a couple years ago. Honestly, I think it's one of the best videos on veganism, really, from anyone, vegan or not. Now, the name Cosmic Skeptic, unfortunately, due to various YouTubers and their behavior over the past few years, skeptic has kind of become like a dirty word, at least on YouTube. I know that for me, when I see someone's with skeptic in their handle or logical, rational words like that, I kind of assume that they're not skeptical, not rational, and not very logical, at least when it comes to certain issues like racism, sexism, veganism. Now, I definitely would not lump Cosmic Skeptic in with these people, with the facts over feelings, crowd, given what I've seen from him. But typical of the skeptic community, he does seem to buy into the idea that giving a platform to bad ideas, to people with bad ideas, having other people debate these people and their bad ideas is fine. It's a good thing. We should not deplatform people because truth will always prevail. Tell that to the children of anti-vaxxers. Maybe the truth does win in the end, like over multiple generations, but that doesn't mean lies can't cause harm today in the here and now. And it doesn't mean that there won't be another lie to take the place of the original lie once the original lie is finally discredited. But this video is not about that. It's actually about objective morality, because while Cosmic Skeptic denies the existence of objective morality as kind of a big part of his presence on YouTube, he also unintentionally outlines some pretty strong arguments in favor of objective morality in this video. So the first argument is something that if you're vegan, you've probably heard before numerous times. It's the, why we love one but eat the other. It's basically a consistency test. However you frame this, from Peter Singer's marginal cases to more recent, more simplistic memes, it challenges the consistency of us devaluing certain animals for reasons that we would never use to devalue other animals like pets or human beings.
Humans are superior to other animals because of X, and therefore we can eat them. Yeah, few problems with that. Firstly, by what metric are we superior? Perhaps the only feasible answer to this is something along the lines of intelligence. Clearly, human beings possess a higher cognitive ability than, say, a chicken. But my question is this: what relevance does that hold to morality? Why should intelligence be the metric by which we measure moral worth? It's arbitrary. It means nothing in itself.
Cosmic Skeptic finds this argument compelling as a subjectivist, but I think he misses an important point, which is that inconsistent value systems are not valid. Consistency itself is an objective principle by which we can say that one moral view is more credible than another. And we can eliminate a vast number of moral systems for being inconsistent. We might even be able to eliminate all but one if we deconstruct them enough. And if this is possible, what would this last standing moral system be if not objective morality? Maybe this isn't actually possible, but if that's the case, then the question becomes whether or not there are really multiple consistent options for moral systems. Until that's proven, isn't the appropriate position agnosticism to the existence of objective morality rather than just flat out rejection? Cosmic Skeptic's own analysis of the issue is kind of all over the place.
If this doesn't apply to humans too, then there's something you're leaving out of your reasoning, because it's not just intelligence. And what is that something? Well, it's invariably the mere fact that humans are the same species as you are, and that non-human animals aren't. This, of course, has absolutely no moral relevance of its own accord, and it's just not a good enough reason to mistreat other living beings. It has the same ethical strength as appealing to the innate value of belonging to a certain race or gender. That is to say, it has no ethical strength.
So he recognizes that an arbitrary appeal to species is comparable to an arbitrary appeal to race or gender, and that these have no ethical meaning, no ethical strength. So is it consistent to accept speciesism but reject the validity of racism or sexism? I don't think so. I don't think it would be, but Cosmic Skeptic seems to disagree.
If you said to me that actually, yes, you do think it's justifiable to kill human beings of lower intelligence for meat, I want to talk you out of it, of course, but I can absolutely see why you'd think the same thing about animals, and at least you'd be being consistent.
Would that really be consistent, though? Would it really be consistent to accept some arbitrary quality like intelligence, but reject another arbitrary quality like eyesight, or as already mentioned, species, race, gender?
But if you justify one and not the other, you've got a problem. And we certainly can't use morally arbitrary metrics like intelligence to justify the killing of either animals or humans.
So is it consistent or not? Can we or can't we use those as justifications? It seems like you have two choices. You can either find a genuinely non-arbitrary basis for morality, or accept that kind of anything goes and become functionally nihilistic, losing any ability to make or assess moral claims. Somebody can always just reject morality outright, just like they can just reject mathematics or logic, but this is clearly not actually engaging with the questions of morality. So then the question becomes, is everybody wrong about morality because there's actually no basis for it? Or are there non-arbitrary means of reasoning about morality? And if there are, is there more than one conclusion that can be reached by reasoning? Cosmic Skeptic answers this pretty well. He refers to John Rawls in his pretty popular thought experiment, The Original Position, that aims to arrange society without bias, so objectively. It involves starting from a position of ignorance, so not knowing what position you will take in a society, and then coming up with an ideally fair society based on that.
Knowing that you could be a brick in this original position wouldn't make you want to prevent bricks from being used in construction. If you were a brick, you wouldn't know you're a brick, and you wouldn't feel any pain. You wouldn't feel anything. It shouldn't bother you at all. You wouldn't mind being a chair, because you're not sentient, so who cares if people are sitting on you? But would you mind being a chicken? Would you mind being a factory-farmed chicken? Of course you would. And if you were really in this original position, you would abolish the meat industry immediately.
Now, Cosmic Skeptic may argue that a lunatic may want something very different, and so based on that, it's subjective. But that's really missing the whole point of the thought experiment. Again, in the original position, you are completely stripped of any ego, of any bias. So a perfectly rational agent, and a perfectly rational agent would come up with a very reliable answer. The same answer every time. There's actually a field of mathematics that models these kind of ideal decisions. And unless you're going to argue that mathematics itself is subjective, it seems pretty hard to argue your way out of thought experiments like these as a way of deducing non-arbitrary and objective bases for morality. There are a lot of arguments like this, and they come to very similar conclusions. And maybe there are several viable, consistent systems with enough difference that there is some amount of wiggle room, some amount of subjectivity in our choice of which one to use. But first, this is an argument that Cosmic Skeptic would have to make, and I don't think he has. His typical response to claims of objective morality involves referring to this kind of non-philosophical definition of morality that references biology or evolution.
There is something that we can all agree on here, that our sense of morality is based upon well-being. The only difference is that I think this is a subjective assumption we make because of our evolutionary tendencies.
Or he says that morality still wouldn't be objective even if everybody agreed on it.
Harris makes the fatal conflation here between the objective fact that everyone agrees that X is true and the objective fact that X is objectively true. Truth is not the same thing as democracy or consensus.
This simply is not what we're talking about when we're talking about the philosophy of prescriptive morality. And second, even if there are multiple consistent systems that are not exactly the same, that doesn't mean that there's no objective morality. Utilitarianism and altruism have some differences, but there's still an incredible amount of overlap. And deontology, if it were consistent, and consequentialism are at great odds with one another, and yet there's still some overlap. We can easily admit that, say, there are objective black and white areas where every single possible consistent moral system is in agreement, and then, relegate the other questions to a sort of moral gray territory. We can do this without jumping to the conclusion that all morality is subjective. So again, overall, I think this video is really, really great. This is just, I want to say kind of nitpicking, but Not really. I wouldn't make this video if I thought it were really just nitpicking. I do think it's really important. And I like that Cosmic Skeptic. I think it's great that he's able to recognize these issues and challenge himself on the moral consistency of eating animals. I think it seems to me that many moral subjectivists are only really subjectivists, when it suits them, right? So claiming subjectivity when kind of, pressed on the moral imperative of vegetarianism, for instance. That definitely is not the case with Cosmic Skeptic. With CS, I should have just said CS the whole video. It's really hard for me to say Cosmic Skeptic. I've flubbed it so many times. That's clearly not the case for him. He's clearly able to recognize these issues. Hopefully he'll be willing to kind of challenge his assumptions about moral subjectivism as well, or at least maybe the certainty to which he holds on to it. And doing so may help him realize that some people are really just objectively wrong instead of just, of a different opinion, and that restricting hate speech isn't always some slippery slope. And that platforming evil in this kind of war of ideas can have really dire consequences. Even really intelligent people can be led very astray by bad ideas if these bad ideas are not presented with the necessary context to contain and debunk them. And no, that doesn't just mean debate is the answer. If you are incredibly charming and well-spoken and confident, it's likely you can convince people of pretty much anything. And it is likely that if you are debating someone who is right, but is not very charming, is not very confident, maybe isn't as attractive as you are, it's pretty likely that you're still gonna win. And by win, I mean convince a lot of people that you are correct. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about this, that this video wasn't about free speech, and it's not, but I do think it's all tied together in the end. Moral subjectivism and free speech hysteria, they form the foundation of alt-right apologetics. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe, support the channel, patreon.com/unnaturalvegan, and I will have a new video very soon. I know I'm going to get some pushback on the free speech alt-right kind of thing. I don't talk politics a lot on this channel or anything, but I feel like that is not even political. Like, really? You're gonna defend the alt-right? I just feel like it's like defending Trump at this point, or really any point. Let's be real. His horrible record, proving what an awful human being he is, it's been going strong for decades now. So this should not even be political at this point to point out that Trump is awful, an awful human being, an awful president, and that the alt-right is bad, is very, very bad. I don't feel like that's very controversial, and I know it is for some people, and that is incredibly depressing. So happy Easter! We're actually going to do a cute little Easter hunt for my kid, and I'm so excited because we haven't celebrated Easter. I haven't celebrated Easter since I was a child. Yes, I'm an atheist, but of course we celebrated Easter. Like, we're not monsters, Easter and Christmas and all that garbage. It's fun. Yeah, so we're definitely doing an Easter hunt because toddler is old enough to kind of, enjoy that sort of thing. And so we've got some little, plastic eggs. We were looking for some wood type things, but I don't know. Maybe we'll look into something like that in the future. Something that we could paint as well. I'm not really sure because we want something that we can paint, but you can also open and put stuff inside, right? Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, we just painted hard-boiled eggs and then my parents would hide them and then you find them. And of course, you'd always miss one and it'd just get all gross outside. It's so disgusting. Even if you're not vegan, why would you want to do that? It's just gross. Yeah, so we're looking for maybe some wooden things that we can paint, and I don't know. But we just got some little plastic ones from Walmart or something, and we're gonna hide some little, what did we get? Some Sour Patch Kids. They have these little jelly bean, Easter things. And then we also got, I think it's Enjoy Life. Is that the company that makes the allergen-free stuff? It's all vegan, I think, because there's no egg or anything like that in their stuff. They've got the chocolate chips and everything. They have some little tiny little candy bars, like the Hershey ones. They have a dark chocolate and two others, and actually one does have honey in it, but the other two do not. So we got the two different kinds of those, and so yeah, we're just gonna put them in the little eggs, and you know how it works. We'll hide them around the yard, and the kid will go crazy, and it's just fun. I love being a mom because it makes these holidays so much fun. Like Halloween, I never liked Halloween. I love Halloween now. Easter, didn't give a shit about Easter except for candy, and the same with Halloween. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm just lounging. I just realized that I'm not sitting up straight at all. I'm totally leaned back. I'm kind of leaning against this ugly thing. I got my worm hanging out with me. For those wondering, because I realized a lot of you have no idea what this is. I used to have this in videos long time ago. This is the worm from Labyrinth, one of my favorite movies of all time. I think many people's favorite movies of all time if you're of a certain age. My favorite thing about this, my brother gave this to me many years ago, and my favorite thing is that the worm is one of, if not the cutest thing in Labyrinth. And in trying to recreate that cuteness, they made one of the most hideous things I have ever seen in my life. Like, I think if it weren't for the fact that the worm's hair were blue and if he didn't have this little scarf, like, that kind of makes it a dead giveaway. But what if, like, the hair were just, like, brown or something? I feel like no one would be able to tell what the hell this is. Like, even the face, he looks so pissed off, but the worm is, like, so happy and sweet. And, like, what? They failed on every level. I love it.